Greetings everyone. So today in this video we're going to talk a little bit about Lia Thomas. Now Lia Thomas, you may have heard of him. I think the story broke a year or two ago originally, where Lia Thomas, who used to be known as William Thomas, entered the women's swimming division, I suppose. He used to be a male swimmer, swimming against the men, and then decided that he was a woman and was winning the women's competition. And a lot of people got outraged about that, and this isn't unique to swimming. This has happened in other sports where men have decided that they are women and then moved over to the female category and then won because they are biologically just stronger, faster, etc. It's even happened in fighting sports where men have decided that they're women and then literally they've been pummeling the heck out of women in fighting sports, and for some reason that was seen as completely okay. So that was the original story with Lia Thomas, but there's been more information that's just come out in the last few days, some breaking news about Lia Thomas that I'm going to get into in just a moment. Before that though, if you actually take a look at Lia Thomas's Wikipedia page, it says Lia Catherine Thomas, born 1999 or 2000. So that's already a bit unusual that we don't know when he was born, particularly as an athlete, as someone who's a nationally known and probably worldwide known, or certainly nationally known athlete, to not know their age. We think they're more or less this age. Is an American swimmer. In 2017, she began studying at the University of Pennsylvania, from which she graduated in May 2022. She competed on the university's men's swim team from 2017 to 2020 and on its women's swim team from 2021 to 2022. Does that not sound a bit unusual? In March 2022, she became the first openly transgender athlete to win an NCAA division, sorry, I might be saying that wrong, national championship in any sport after winning the women's 500-yard freestyle event. Beginning in 2021, she became part of the public debate about transgender women in sports. So I think this story basically broke in 2021. But it's interesting how they don't mention, because they used to, when you went onto the profile of someone who was considered now to be the other gender, in their profile, if they were well known, it would say born as, and then it would give their name that they were born as, and then say, this is their name now. Whereas here we don't get that. We just get Lia Catherine Thomas. It doesn't say in brackets originally born as William Thomas. It does, however, mention that he used to be competing in the men's sport, and that he's transgender. Basically because this debate pretty much began, I think, with Lia Thomas. I'm not sure if there were instances before Lia Thomas where this was known, or if there were, it wasn't as known publicly, at least. If we look here at this was a recent story, by the way. It does relate to Lia Thomas slightly. Transgender college athletes will be banned from competing in Texas, it says. And it says transgender athletes will not be allowed to compete in college sports in the Lone Star State. Texas Governor Greg Abbott has vowed. And I think later on here he mentions Lia Thomas. Abbott referenced Harvard transgender swimmer Lia Thomas during his remarks. The 22-year-old University of Pennsylvania swimmer sparked a national debate on whether athletes who were born male should be allowed to compete against biological females. And there's a picture of Lia Thomas. And actually the girl on the right is what we're going to get to in just a moment, because she had some interesting things to reveal about Lia Thomas. She was competing with Lia Thomas. There is also, of course, a response from those who are pro-trans. It says, in Texas, LGBTQ groups were quick to speak out against Abbott's proposal. This type of legislation would abandon trans athletes and leave them without a way to express themselves in sports, Equality Texas tweeted. Not necessarily. It's making it seem like they're never going to be able to compete in any sports again because they've been kicked out. Well, I have a solution for you, okay? People who consider themselves trans, such as Lia Thomas, they can compete with other people who consider themselves trans. So we can have a whole category, if you like, of people who are trans women. We obviously see them as people with gender dysphoria, but let's say, for the sake of argument, let's pretend that they're trans women and they can compete in their own category. You can have a whole category of men who believe they're women competing against each other, and then it will be fair because there's no biological difference. You know, I know many people of various political views and ideological views, and those who are more liberal have tried to explain to me that what's happening here is that sex needs to be separated from gender. So they say the sex is what you're born as, it's your biological physical state, and the gender is more about how you feel inside, and that those two need to be separated. So people can have a particular sex, but they can have a different gender. But the thing is, even if that were true, let's pretend that that's the case. That still isn't an excuse to let trans women compete with women. Because what matters in sport, it isn't how you feel inside. I mean, there might be some psychology to sport, but it isn't really about how you feel about yourself. The key thing in sport is your physique. It's your speed, it's your strength, it's your physical aspects that cause you to be a good athlete. So if indeed someone feels like they are a woman, but their sex is still male, they should not be permitted to compete with women. But anyway, let's get to the breaking story that came out just recently. So this actually happened on a YouTube sports show, and the swimmer or ex-swimmer, I'm not sure, called Riley Gaines was invited on. And Riley Gaines, who you saw in the picture earlier standing beside Lia Thomas, had to compete with Lia Thomas. And on this show, Riley Gaines was talking about that whole time, saying that, you know, she was one of the top swimmers. I think she was ranked 3rd, she said. And when you're ranked high up, you tend to know who your competition is in that area. So she knew the woman who was 2nd. But when she looked at the person who was 1st, Lia Thomas, she said she'd never heard of them. And she said she was surprised that they suddenly came out of nowhere and were in 1st place in the rankings. Later on, she then went on to describe an incident where they were all in the locker room together, and Lia Thomas, you know, because when you're in the locker room, you do take your clothes off. Lia Thomas took his clothes off, and it was clearly a man. And she was shocked by this, but she was also shocked that there seemed to be no reaction to this, that everyone just went quiet and kept changing. She goes on to talk about a few things about that time, so I'm going to put the full video in the link if you want to watch it. But I want to concentrate on a specific thing that she said that shows that Lia Thomas is even weirder than first thought, if that's possible. So it was brought to her attention that there was some very, I don't even know how to describe it, unusual, perverse social media posts put up by Lia Thomas and also by the person that Lia Thomas is with or was with. If you're eating, maybe don't watch this. And if you've got any children or grandchildren around, perhaps send them out. But let's just go through this. I'm going to play the clip from this show and let's have a little look at this.
I actually had someone send me the girlfriend's Instagram page, to which I obviously looked at. It is in fact a male who has transitioned, so the same type of transgender persons as Lia. Very interesting dynamic, what they engage in, the different things. I mean, it's probably too explicit to even say.
I mean, it's
mind-blowing now, sitting back, looking at this in front of my eyes and knowing we had to share a locker room with this person.
Are some of the things they do satanic, would you say?
Yes.
Okay. Really? Not surprised by that.
They practice these satanic things based off of the posts and based off of the content that they like on social media. It's very, very just bizarre. They have bondage all over their bedroom wall where they sleep every night. I'm talking like full,
and this
like
is all
50
everybody
shades,
can see this. This is
like 50 Shades of Grey, like wall.
Yeah.
Of things. They both actually on the same day. Again, this is all to my knowledge from the photos they're posting. I don't want to make it seem like I'm claiming something, but this is what this is public that they post. The same day, they actually both went to the hospital to essentially get neutered. They wanted to stop all testosterone production, so they cut off parts of their male parts, but left other parts, to which in a photo, these testicles are in a jar.
Stop.
Just at their house.
I mean, here we are.
Like a pickle jar?
Like pickled balls.
I mean-
Yes.
So Lia Thomas, or William Thomas, as his original name was, not only thinks that he's a woman, he's also dating or was dating a trans woman. So it's essentially two guys who think they're women and now believe they're in a lesbian relationship. They're into satanic things, and they also both went to get their testicles taken out, and there's a picture of one of them posing with the testicles, allegedly. This isn't confirmed, but it certainly seems to be that way from the picture, posing with one or both of their testicles in a jar. That's Lia Thomas, who much of the mainstream, I sometimes say mainstream and left-wing media, but that's kind of the same thing, who much of the mainstream media were promoting and using as the kind of figure, the poster boy / girl of the whole transgender people in sports debate. So make of that what you want. And thank you for watching the video. See you again soon.